Are you concerned about all this corruption being misgendered as conspiracies? Well, don't you worry. Sit back, relax, and join in the conversation as we talk with today's guest. Welcome to another LSB Film Productions podcast with your host, Chris Brooks.
Hello and welcome to the channel. It's me, Chris Brooks, and welcome to another LSB Film podcast. Today my guest is the wonderful Joy Warren, who has an honours degree in environmental science and is also part of the UK Freedom from Fluoride Alliance. She's been doing marvellous things, and I'm really interested to hear what Joy has to say when it comes to safeguarding the water that we drink and the expertise and knowledge that she has with regards to what is being put in the water. So let's welcome Joy to the show. Welcome to the show, Joy.
Hello, thank you very much for asking me on.
My pleasure. So how did you start this journey? What prompted you?
Seems so long ago. I'm 2002, I just got my degree in environmental science, and I was scouting around looking for something to do with it. I was working at the time, so I didn't have all that much spare time, but I was in Friends of the Earth, went to a meeting. I talked to a doctor, Dr. Dan Phillips, who had been made ill when she moved from London to the fluoridated West Midlands. At the time, she didn't realize it was fluoridated. She came down with hypothyroidism and spent many years trying to work out why. She finally found out by going off to Vancouver and talking to a guy called Andreas Schultz. And he said, "You've got hypothyroidism, you're a classic case." So she came back to Coventry, installed a filtration unit, started drinking purified water, and eventually her health returned. But she was one of these unfortunate people. She had a smaller thyroid gland than other people. So she was going to be laid low really quickly. So I went to the talk. I listened to what she said, didn't believe her. Yeah. And then I thought, there must be something in this. The doctor's not going to tell me a lie about this. It took me a whole year of study before I decided that she was right. I was wrong. I was indolent and I should have known better. Anyway, there you go.
Just quickly, can I just commend you though, because many people, and I've got family members, in fact, I've just had a bit of a moan at one of them. At least, okay, to start with, you didn't believe, but you still looked into it. You still decided to research it, which then obviously changed your mind. And that's what we need, people. We need people who, you might not believe what's going on to start with, but just dig a little bit and you will find out. Sorry for interrupting you. I just wanted to say well done on that.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly good. So, yeah, then I joined the National Pure Water Association as a director and left them around about 2010, 11, and started West Midlands Against Fluoridation, because we're in a fluoridated area, and the people I was talking to at the NPWA, on the whole, were living in non-fluoridated areas. So, in a way, I felt as though I had far more to offer by starting an organization of my own in a fluoridated area. So that was it. And then I took advice about 5 years later, it's about 2017, because West Midlands is fluoridated. We're locked into it but by law, so we couldn't do anything. So I thought I'd go national. Grandiose scheme. But that's fine.
Straight into the deep end.
Yes. So now we're Fluoride Free Alliance UK.
Brilliant.
And I'm the national coordinator.
Brilliant. I will leave your website links in the video description so people can just click on it and find you easily. So that would be good.
Mm-hmm.
But no, so how bad is the situation then?
It's 10% of England is fluoridated, which doesn't sound very much, 6 million people. Fortunately, they have not increased apart from birth and more children being born. So we've managed to stop all the proposals for fluoridation since 1955, when the first trial demonstration scheme came on. The first one was Andover, and it was there for 3 years, and people didn't like it, and they chucked the local authority out, voted themselves in, and the day they were in post, they stopped fluoridation in the town. So that was the first one. And then ever since then, every now and then we have local authorities, public health directors trying to get their area fluoridated because it's good for the children's teeth, don't you know? No, but we haven't had any more fluoridation schemes going live since 1987 was the last one. Yeah. Now, how bad is it?
Mm.
We call them the establishment as opposed to the ministers and the MPs. Some strange reason, the English government establishment is hell-bent on fluoridating everybody, and they influence the ministers as they come into post and go out of post and come back into post or whatever, because these poor souls don't know anything about the issue. And if I was to write to them, they wouldn't take any notice of me because I'd understand I would have to send solicitors' letters to make sure that their solicitors read about the issue. So getting any sensible reply from the ministers is is not going to happen. And we know that obviously they have correspondence departments, and when you get letters back, the letters are all sort of bland. And don't you know it's safe and effective, but definitely safe.
Well, where have you heard
We
that
know
before?
it is. Yeah, but you ask, well, can you prove it? Oh no,
Mm.
no, we don't hold that information. Why not? You're the ones who are pushing it. So
Well, even on a tooth packet, sorry, a
yeah,
toothpaste packet, it says, I think it's more in America, 'cause I don't think I've seen it in this country, but it says fluoride, if swallowed, contact your
local
poisoning.
corrections
Yeah.
center. Yeah.
So how can it be good for you? And with like all medicine, everyone is different, which is why you have to have different doses for different people because it affects people differently. So how can they just roll something out which is for everyone?
Mhm. One size fits all.
Hmm.
It's hardly it's a medical malpractice to do that. But the thing is that the establishment will not accept that fluoridated water is a medicinal liquid. But they're completely wrong, and the only way we're going to get them to admit that it is to take them to court.
Hmm.
And it's been a long time in coming, but we're getting our ducks in a row. In fact, 3 days ago, I signed a contract with a barrister.
Really?
Mm.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
Is it a barrister that works for the bar? I
I don't
suppose they all
know.
do, don't they?
Yeah,
Must do.
she's not a King's Counsel. That's all I know. And
Okay.
she has good knowledge of fluoridation because she has been reading up on it over the last 3 years.
So
So
why do they put fluoride in the water? I know that they say it's because it helps with your teeth, which you would know is a load of old cobblers. Is it just that they're trying to? Is it the fact that they're dumbing people down? Because I've heard that it calcifies your pineal gland if you're into like the spiritual element of this, or is it that they're just trying to get rid of it because it's too expensive to dispose of properly?
right, there are about 3 or 4 actors in this issue. The dumbing down is a very reasonable idea. The pineal gland is a calcifying organ, which means that because it has calcium in it, it attracts fluoride, and the bond between fluoride and calcium is really strong. So that actually silts up the pineal gland, prevents the production of melatonin, which is necessary for good sleep, and also to prevent breast cancer. Oh,
Right.
obviously it's useful for other things, but if you have less melatonin, then you're not dead in the water, but you're sort of not exactly floating on the top of it.
Mm.
Um, Dumbing down, yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I've heard recently that somebody who went to Auschwitz to visit the camp, the guide did say that the inmates were given fluoridated water to keep them quiet.
Really?
Now, that is just secondhand, anecdotal, but why would a guide at Auschwitz say that if it wasn't true? And then we've got somebody saying, I think it's a guy who went to America immediately after the war, and I think he worked for IG Farben, the chemical company, and he was saying that that was the case. Yes, they were giving them fluoride to keep them quiet. Yeah. So dumbing down, right. Next thing is, does it help teeth? No, not really. The most recent research reports we've had from Britain, UK government sponsors, and they found between 2% and 4% of the children examined had better teeth if they were fluoridated. There's hardly anything to 4%. Over the decades, the claims have been, oh, it prevents dental decay by 25%, 30%, 35%. But now we're back down to 2 to 4%, which is nothing. And also, no research has proven, none at all, that fluoride reduces oral health inequalities across social groups, which is one of the aspirations of all governments to try and equalize. Yeah. So it's nothing to
Very
do with
joy.
dentistry. It's nothing to do with any other praiseworthy cause, and it certainly doesn't help our health. So what is the reason behind it? And I'm talking to somebody obviously who's aware of what's going on in the world. Have you heard of a guy called Kevin Galilei?
No, I haven't.
He wrote a book called Killing Us Softly.
I recognise that, but then that could be just from the song.
Yes, yes. It was an eye-opener. I read it at the beginning of the year, and up until then, I just tried to go down the straight and narrow and try not to have as conspiracy theories going around me or anything like that. But this one is so strong. I mean, he's got all the graphs of population expansion, all that sort of thing. And he explicitly says in it that the governments are doing fluoridation because that's the way they've been told they should do it. It's sort of like Davros, they go to Davros, they get their marching orders, they come back and do it, that sort of thing. And I've been doing it since 1955 here. I think then it was more a case of getting rid of the poison, hazardous waste without spending too much money neutralizing it. But later on, as the populations gradually expanded, they had to do something. And they've been thinking, all right, India, it was forced sterilization after the woman had had her first child. China, one-child policy, which then became a two-child policy. And the rest of the world, like, for example, Singapore and Hong Kong, and America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Britain, and Ireland, have all been told fluoridation. It's a way to go because it actually reduces the population. It reduces not sterility. It increases sterility. Obviously, the other side of the thing is how it makes people ill much more quickly. We don't die happily, shall we say. We're not in good health as we reach our final years. So that's the whole thesis of Kevin Galilei.
Because we have been in a population decline since the boomer years, haven't we? It has slowly gone,
Yeah,
and we're actually now dangerously low.
yeah. I believe Europe's having a real problem with depopulation, but of course they're getting immigrants coming into Europe to balance it out.
That's right. And I think it's also to create that illusion that we're overpopulated by bringing all the influx of these foreign national people, isn't it? It's to give this illusion that, oh, there's too many people, we need to do something. Problem, reaction, solution.
Yeah, may well be that. Yeah. So, I mean, what other reason could there be? Well, the other one, of course, is that this is a hazardous waste. It has to be disposed of. You can't let it keep hanging around in ponds or just some gypsum stacks. I can't say that properly. You've got to do something with it. And if they can actually save money at the phosphate fertilizer manufacturers and the aluminium works by not having to neutralize it and can sell it instead for a small profit, then they're quids in. Absolutely. So that was the main reason back in 1946 why America had a good idea of putting it in the drinking water, feed it into the drinking water so it finally gets into the sea little by little. They can't put it in the sea directly because that would be pollution and it would break the environmental laws. So they did it the back doorway. And it's scandalous that were prepared to put a poison in drinking water. But it's such a tiny amount per litre, it didn't make any difference, did it? Well, I'm afraid it did.
It does.
It did because it still does, but we don't have any proof. No one's doing the research, but in the early days, there was no halo effect. So you could see what was happening to the children, especially young girls. They came to puberty earlier because of fluoride. They also had more bone defects because of it. And the early trials were stopped prematurely and they decided to go ahead and fluoridate more cities, just because they could, because they had the power to do so.
My daughter was 11 when she
That-
started.
That's not too bad.
Is it not?
No,
I don't know. I was still a child. I was like, oh dear.
I know 12 would be about right, but 11, you got to cater for each child's differences. Yeah.
No, that's true. But no, it is a scary thought. All this poison. What is the difference between fluoride and chlorine? Because like if I run my bath and I want the cold tap on really hard, I can smell chlorine.
In fact, if you put tap water into a glass and hold it up to the sun, you can see the chlorine dissipating out, gassing out. Right?
Okay.
That's chlorine, and it's there as a disinfectant. It's water treatment. It's
And is that
poisonous.
safe?
Well, if you hold on and allow it to dissipate out, then it's going to be healthier for you to drink.
Right, okay.
You know, pour your glass of water, stick it in the fridge overnight, drink it the next day. That sort
Because
of
we
thing.
always use the. I would like to get one of those filters that go underneath your sink, but I haven't got round to that. So we just use like a Brita water filter.
You're in
Go
Norfolk.
on.
You're allowed to. Like Norfolk isn't fluoridated, but you wouldn't want to write a fitter in a fluoridated area.
Oh, why? How come?
They don't take out fluoride, but they take everything else out. That's good for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I've seen pictures of like these pipes that our water is supposed to come through, and it looks absolutely disgusting. You know, it just looks like gunky. Oh, that's enough to put you off, really.
Is what they do it, but if you've got lead pipes, the water companies add phosphate to the water to stop the lead leaching off the pipes. So if you've got fluoride and you haven't got the phosphate, you might end up with lead fluoride in your tap water.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So,
Cool. So
anyway,
bear
the
that in
difference
mind,
between
people who are getting these pumps fitted or these filters fitted. You might be doing yourself more damage. That's shocking. I didn't know that.
yeah. So chlorine is a proper water disinfectant chemical, water treatment chemical. But fluoride, or hexafluorosilicic acid is the full name, is a human treatment chemical. It's nothing to do with water treatment. That's the main difference. And because it's human treatment, it's medicine. So it converts your drinking water into medicinal liquid without our consent. And when we say we don't want it, they say, well, I'm sorry, tough, you've got it. It's the law. And we say, no, I'm not going to pay for it. And I don't pay for mine. We pay for sewerage, but we don't pay for the so-called drinking water because it's not drinking water. And we
How did
know
you get
that.
around that? How did you get around that? Because my good friend Bob Says, he's been to and fro from the water company for quite a while now, saying, you know, it's not safe, blah, blah, blah. And I even got them to admit that they're a private company, therefore there's no contract.
Okay, I think we don't worry about that too much. It's a case of saying it's medicine. No, it isn't. It's medicine. Well, it can't be. It's but me. Look, you got the British Standard, right? The British Standard admits that it's therefore to increase consumers' resistance to dental decay. So it's a prophylactic. Right? Now, in the Drinking Water Directive, which is retained post-Brexit, we're told that medicinal water is excluded from the provisions and protections of the directive. So therefore, we're not protected by the directive, and the water quality standards, which were established by the directive, don't apply to medicinal water because medicinal water is not part of the directive. It's such a neat way of getting around it. Therefore, Mr. CEO of the water company, I'm not paying for my so-called drinking water because it's medicine. It's coming out of my tap as medicine. I do not consent to drinking medicine. I do not consent to product substitution, and I do not consent to paying for this grotty stuff I do not need. Because I'm a human being. I have mental capacity, and the law on mental capacity protects me. I haven't been certified by two doctors or anything like that. So therefore you can't do that. Therefore, I'm not paying for it. Oh, okay. And then they keep sending you letters and then it's a saber rattle and try to take you to court. They never do. And if it did, I'd just countersue because I mean I've got all the law in the world on my side, and there's only one law on their side.
Hmm.
And they can do it because it's legal. Now, when you have a law which is bad law, it's still law. So therefore you have to challenge it in court. So we haven't had my day in court because no one's taken me to court. Damn it all, they should do that, don't you think?
It would be great just so we've got a precedent set,
Very Joy.
precedent rather. It would be really good just for somebody to go through that process and
Well,
say, I did it.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
working
that'd be
on it.
brilliant.
We're
Have
actively
have
working on it.
have you noticed a correlation between the areas of Britain which are fluoridated with the type of people that live in that area? So, like, is it the poorer areas where they're fluoridating because maybe they're not valued as much as maybe? No, is it just
It's a broad stroke
okay?
intervention. I mean, I live in Coventry. The whole city is fluoridated, the very affluent areas and the poor areas. The whole of Warwickshire is fluoridated, including
Really, my
Stratford on
wife
Avon.
came. My wife lived in Stratford upon Avon. That's where she came from.
Yep, I think they've been fluoridated since the 80s. Now,
Blimey.
why would they be fluoridating Stratford?
Hmm.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
Perhaps they just don't like
Because that's the
Shakespeare.
way the water runs in the pipes. They can't pick and choose. They have to do a whole water treatment works. And that's all there is to it. You can't have two pipes coming out of a water treatment works.
Fair enough. So, have you got like a map on your website of the areas which are fluoridated versus those that aren't?
Got more better than that. We've got a whole list of postcodes.
Oh, okay, brilliant.
Hmm.
Okay. So make sure people who are watching this, please do check that out because it's vital information. No, awesome.
Yes. I mean, obviously you need to know, and then you go and check with your water company, and you can actually download the water quality reports that they hold. They keep. They're always behind time, but you can see the levels of all the other elements in the drinking water. They call them chemical parameters. That's just basically different types of elements
Mm,
like chlorine and sorry, not chlorine, magnesium possibly if you're lucky, potassium, and all the agricultural pesticide stuff in there as well. And it's all below a certain level. For ordinary drinking water, that's fine after a fashion. But I have a real problem with arsenic and lead in drinking water, in that our case, because we're fluoridated, they try and take the arsenic and lead out of the raw water as it's being treated. But just before they release it into the mains, in my area, they add arsenic and lead back in. And that's really bad news.
why would they do that other than for
Well,
sinister reasons?
yeah, the hexafluorosilicic acid is an industrial hazardous waste. There are two sources of the other elements in that acid. You have the stuff in the ore, fluorapatite ore, which is crushed with sulfuric acid to make phosphate fertilizer, brome ore, if you like. And then you have all these things, all the bits and pieces in that ore, which are adventitious minerals, if you like,
Mm.
but they're also heavy metals. And of those heavy metals, it's arsenic and lead. And then when they're scrubbing the gases, the hot gases which go up the chimneys after the process of making phosphate fertilizer, the water they use is basically factory floor water, and it contains so many other contaminants. And totally, we've got about 26, I think, different chemicals in the acid, plus the water they use to scrub, plus the fluoride, which comes from the ore. And
Hasn't E. coli been found in water as well?
E. coli.
Hmm.
Um, they try to kill that with chlorine.
All right. Okay.
It's that's a different thing altogether, really.
Yeah, it's
We are talking
bacteria.
we're talking about non-organic stuff here. But they're not going to take the stuff out. They're not going to use pure water to make a hazardous waste, where they would normally have stuck it in tanks and kept it underground or something like that. but now they're selling it for a small profit.
See, I'm really skeptical when it comes to water. I mean, even bottled water, I think, is it as safe as they make it? Is it better than tap water?
I would probably say if you buy your bottled water in glass, that's probably the best thing you can do.
Because
But
of the microplastics.
I don't like the idea of swallowing microplastics. And let's imagine if you keep reusing the bottle, surely there are not that many plastics coming out of it after a few weeks, after a few months.
Mm.
But anyway, what we do is we distill our water. So I do actually use water companies' tap water and stick it through reverse osmosis, and then I put the reverse osmosis water through distiller. So it's double purified.
Blimey, that's good.
It's the
But
only
does
way I
it?
can
But
store it.
but does it? What happens when you bathe in it
We don't have a bath.
or shower?
Yeah, it's all right. So we have a shower. I don't have long showers and they're not very hot.
Okay, okay. Because
However,
that's what I tend to think. You can get away with it one way, but then it gets you some other way, like you're washing.
exactly. So there is a certain body of research evidence which shows that the skin does absorb fluoride from hot baths or even lukewarm baths. 1931, I go back to a guy called Victor Galitza von Mundy. He was a doctor, medical doctor, and he had about 30 patients who had hyperthyroidism, overactive. Right, so these guys, skinny, gaunt, running around like demented rats. They're not going to put any weight on, and they were slowly killing themselves because of hyperactivity. So he knew about the metabolism experiments on tadpoles. Now you put some tadpoles in similar aquaria, but one had got a small amount of hydrogen fluoride or hydrofluoric acid in it. And the one in the hydrofluoric acid had delayed metabolism. So what he did, he gave his patients lukewarm baths with a tiny amount of hydrofluoric acid. And they all put on weight, except for one person who was probably too far gone. And the metabolism slowed down. So they were saved.
Blimey.
Right.
So I
So
take it is the warmth. Is that just because it opens up your skin pores more?
yeah,
I
he had to be very
assume.
careful because hydrofluoric acid is deadly. And so he had to be very careful about the volume of water he was using and the volume of the hydrofluoric acid. But yeah, I mean, it took him about 14 months to effect a cure, and it had to be done very slowly. These people were getting too much iodide in their drinking water in Vienna, and that's why they came down with hyperthyroidism. Mainly, and also they were prone to having it. And we're not saying the whole of the Viennese population was coming down with hypothyroidism. These are poor unfortunates who had a little
Mm.
too much iodide. So, but
That's,
there you go. So I would never have a bath in a fluoridated area. And when we go on holiday, it's great to
so
have a bath.
Norfolk's okay then.
At the moment, because there's a move afoot to fluoridate it. And you have to watch out for what's happening in the local authority committees, like the health and well-being boards. Now, these are
So
the
like the
ones.
councils.
No, we have councils because
Yeah.
although they don't have a say in it anymore, they're the ones who can propose to OHID, Office for Health Improvement and Disparities, that the Secretary of State consider going out to public consultation for the county.
Okay.
Right. So who's putting them up to it? It's the directors of public health who all seem to sing out of the same hymn book.
The same Weffin book.
Yeah. And they are actually talking lots of time, all the time to OHID. And the people in OHID are the establishment. And because of the local, I should say the national verdict from the United States of America, where it's been shown that fluoride causes a reduction in intelligence of children, of the unborn child and the infant in particular. Because of that, and because that news has traveled across the pond, and the pro-fluoridationists are panicking now. They're trying to get more places fluoridated before the news breaks big time. And it's not breaking big time because BBC has been told, don't say anything about it.
Well, when you consider the BBC were given something like £60 million by Mr. Gates, we know what the BBC are, don't we? They're just.
That's bad news, isn't it? Really? So they're supposed to be not biased, but they most certainly are. I
And
know.
this is the thing that annoys me. I was talking to my stepmom. I said, "Yeah, you disagree with me based on what you're being told by the biggest propaganda machine in history."
Mhm.
I said, "They
Very
spew
true.
out. Not only do they spew out lies, you pay for it. You pay to be lied to.
And you're happy. I don't think
It's,
so.
ignorance can only get you so far."
Yeah, I think people just get closed down. They just they just do not admit there's anything bad going on and just live their lives privately without worrying about anything. And
Do
it's
you
the only
think?
way
Do you
perhaps
think
to
that's
survive.
because people are those people? They know that if they accept that, then they also have to accept that their entire life has been based on lies, and they're just not ready to admit that.
Yeah, they think it'll destroy them if they have to admit such harm is being done to them. I often say, if religion is dying, so who do you believe in these days? When you go to your doctor, you believe what the doctor says, so you believe in that doctor. But if a doctor's telling you lies about treatments, that's really bad news, and it would be so destroying.
Yeah,
But you have no other authoritative figure to look up to.
that's right. No, absolutely. And I quite often get oh, are you, you know, there's no papers been written on this. There's no, so it's always about the academic side, isn't it? They're always saying, oh, unless it's said by so and so or it's written in such and such paper, I'm ignoring it. I'm ignoring it. But we
That's
know
why
that they're all compromised.
yeah, our journal's called Fluoride. It has a huge number of research studies in it, which are not published in the mainline journals. It's been ignored, and that's why fluoride started off because all these people who were researching couldn't get their work published. So we had to provide them with a proper journal which publicized their work. But people who mainline researchers don't look at fluoride because it doesn't come up in the searches for similar type of research studies.
Blimey. What's the name of your website again?
Fluoride Free Alliance UK, but that is not the actual abbreviation, not the URL, because we changed our name about 3 years ago.
Right, okay. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. Um, I've learned quite a few things that I thought I knew, but clearly I didn't. So, very much indebted to you for that. Wow. Yeah, that's terrible. Please do send me any links that you want me to add or anything in an email, and then I'll put it all up in post. But for now, thank you so much for your time. I hope everyone who's been watching this has enjoyed it and learnt from it. I know I have. And until next time, take care. Bye for now.